You have 3 children. Is there really no one to take care of you after the operation? The doctor leaned over me when I came out of anesthesia. I turned my back to the wall and cried. None of my 3 daughters gave me money for the operation. But there was a knock on the door. The one who our family considered missing was there. When you're 62 and coming out of anesthesia, everything feels like it's happening underwater. Voices muffled, lights too bright, body heavy as wet laundry. But those words cut through the fog like a knife. You have 3 children, as if that were a diagnosis. I didn't answer him. What was I supposed to say? Yes, doctor, 3 healthy, educated, well-married daughters who can post inspirational quotes on Instagram but couldn't spare a dime to keep their mother alive. I just turned my face to the wall. The tears came hot and stupid, slipping into my hairline. At my age, you'd think you'd run out of tears. Turns out, the supply is renewable. Behind my closed eyelids, the last few weeks replayed themselves in cruel little flashes. The day I found out about the tumor, it was raining. Of course it was. No one gets life-changing news on a sunny day with birds singing. I remember sitting in that cramped office while the surgeon, young, neat beard, to kind eyes, pulled up the images on the screen. Julia, we caught it early, he said, voice gentle. That's the good news. The operation is complex, but your chances are very good if we move quickly. And the bad news, I asked, because there's always a second shoe waiting to drop. I've lived long enough to hear a whole closet's worth of shoes. He hesitated. That was my first clue. Well, the surgery isn't covered in full. The specialist team, the ICU bed, with your insurance. You're looking at about $28,000 to $30,000 out of pocket. $30,000. I remember nodding like a polite idiot while my brain did somersaults. 30,000. That was the number that had been following me my whole life. 30,000 to fix the roof when the girls were little. 30,000 in student loans when my eldest decided to become an architect. 30,000 here. 30,000 there. My whole life had been one long installment plan. I see, I'd said, even though I didn't see anything except a wall of numbers. Do you have family who can help? He asked. Children? Spouse? Just me, I replied, automatically. Well, I have 3 daughters. But it's my surgery. I'll manage, because that's what I always say. I'll manage. I've been saying it since I was 24 with a newborn on my hip and a husband walking out the door to find himself. Spoiler alert, he never did. I raised 3 daughters with a pot of soup that never ran out and a spine that never got to rest. I didn't tell the doctor any of that. I just went home, made tea I didn't drink, and opened my laptop. I have a simple rule with my daughters. I don't ask for anything. Over the years, if they wanted help, they asked. If I could, I gave. When each of them was ready to buy a home, I sat in front of the bank clerk, signed the forms, and wired them each $100,000. 3 daughters. $300,000. Every cent I'd squirreled away from extra shifts, night cleaning jobs, tutoring, sewing repairs for neighbors, quiet money, secret money. Mom, where did you even get this money? I was proud to do it. They were my girls. My future. My proof that I hadn't failed at everything. So picking up the phone that night to call them about my surgery felt like swallowing nails. I started with the eldest. I always do. She's the organized one, the one with the color-coded life, my dear, efficient queen of spreadsheets. Mom, what's wrong with your voice? She asked as soon as she picked up. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired. Listen, darling, I have to have an operation. Silence. 3 seconds. 5. I could hear her brain switching tabs. An operation? What kind of operation? I explained, briefly, sparing her the medical Latin. I told her the cost. I told her I'd already spoken to the hospital I was seeing about a loan, that I didn't expect anything. I just wanted her to know. That's the thing about pride, it makes you phrase your begging as polite conversation. How much do you need? She asked finally. 30,000, I whispered, hating the number all over again. Another pause. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. This thin, disbelieving sound. Oh, Mom, are you serious? 30,000. Just like that. Well, not just like that. I would pay you back. From what? She snapped. Your pension? Your part-time cleaning? Be serious. And what if you die during the operation? Who will repay me then? I went quiet. The words hung there, heavy and cold. Anyway, she continued, her voice softening into that tone adult children use when they explain reality to their outdated parents. We have the mortgage. And Max's business is still recovering from the pandemic. And the kids' extracurriculars. It's impossible. Mom, you should understand. I do. I replied. Because apparently I like to lie. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, phone still in my hand, listening to the silence where comfort should have been. The second daughter didn't even let me finish. Mom, you know I would love to help. But we just redid the kitchen. The loan is huge. Talk to the bank. They have options for this. The third one cried. Oh, she cried beautifully. Oh, Mommy, I'm so sorry you're going through this. If only I could help, but with daycare costs and car repairs. And my back has been acting up so I might need surgery to someday. You understand, right? You always understand. Yes. Apparently I always understand. By the time I called the bank, I had aged at least 10 years. The day before I went to apply for the loan, I logged into my bank account to print out my statements. The numbers were familiar, worn grooves in my brain, pension, a little savings, a tiny emergency fund that had already been used for everyone else's emergencies except mine. Then I saw it. Plus 30,000. An incoming transfer. Anonymous. My first thought was, they changed their minds. One of the girls has a conscience after all. Maybe the eldest. Maybe she talked to her husband. Maybe he reminded her that I'd once pawned my wedding ring so she could go on a school trip to Paris. Then I clicked on the transaction. Sender, private client. Note, for your operation. Don't argue. That was it. No name. No account I recognized. Someone somewhere had just saved my life, and the bank statement sounded like a note from a stubborn angel. I called all three of my daughters again, casually, as if I hadn't spent the night staring at the ceiling. Did you send me anything? I asked each of them, a little hope creeping where it didn't belong. They all gave the same answer, in 3 slightly different flavors of offended. What? No, Mom. Are you trying to guilt trip us? By the time I checked into the hospital, I had signed the forms with that mysterious money. The nurses smiled. The anesthesiologist made a joke. The world went blurry. And then I woke up to a doctor asking why my 3 daughters were nowhere in sight. The tears were still wet on my cheek when someone knocked. A soft, hesitant knock, like the person on the other side wasn't sure they deserved to be there. Come in, I whispered, my throat raw. The door opened, and for a second I thought the anesthesia was making me hallucinate. Because standing there, in my hospital room, was a ghost. Hey, Grandma, he said. Alex. My eldest daughter's son. The boy who had vanished at 19 and taken half my heart with him. The family scandal. The difficult one, the one they talked about in lowered voices over holiday dinners, if they mentioned him at all. He was taller, broader in the shoulders, the softness of adolescence burned away. Dark hair a little longer, jawline sharper, eyes the same storm gray as when he was 3 and refused to come down from the tree until I promised he wouldn't have to say sorry first. For 5 years, every time my phone chimed, some little part of me hoped it would be him. For 5 years, nothing. And now here he was, in my hospital room, wearing a tailored coat that clearly did not come from a discount rack and a watch that probably cost more than my first car. You're not dead, I blurted, eloquent as ever. He smirked, the same crooked twist of his mouth I used to see when he'd get caught with a slingshot and swear it wasn't him. Nice to see you too, Grandma. The doctor glanced between us, confused, then cleared his throat. Family? He asked. Yes, Alex said firmly before I could answer. I'm her grandson. I'll be taking care of her. The doctor's expression softened instantly. Amazing how that works. Say grandson, and suddenly you're a proper patient again. Not a lonely old woman with suspiciously absent children. Good. The doctor nodded. She'll need someone with her for at least a week after discharge. It was a serious operation. Are you able to stay with her at home? Alex didn't even hesitate. She won't be going home, he said. She'll be coming with me. I turned my head so fast I felt the stitches pull. What? He gave me a look. Decided. Don't worry about it right now, he said. Rest. We'll talk later. The doctor scribbled something on the chart and left, satisfied that the box labeled family support had been checked. As soon as the door closed, the room changed temperature. It was just me and Alex and 5 years of silence crackling between us. You look terrible, he said quietly, pulling a chair closer to the bed. Thank you, I sniffed. You always knew how to flatter a woman. That earned me a small laugh. He sat, elbows on his knees, studying me like he was memorizing my face. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I frowned. Tell you what? That I was old. I assumed the calendar handled that. That you were sick, he said. I didn't know how to tell you I was still alive, much less sick. I shot back. You vanished. Remember? You disappeared in the middle of the night like some bargain bin rock star. No note. No call. Your own mother thought you were dead in a ditch. Yeah, well, he muttered, looking away. My own mother thought a lot of things. We sat in silence for a moment. Machines beeped softly. Somewhere down the hall, a nurse laughed. Was it you? I asked finally. The money. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and turned the screen toward me. It was a screenshot of the transfer. For your operation. Don't argue. The note. My note. How did you know it had to be exactly 30,000? I whispered. He held my gaze, his expression suddenly colder, older than 24 years should allow. Because I know everything, he said. Because I've been watching this family from the outside for 5 years. And because I know exactly how much it costs to pay for other people's mistakes. I stared at him. The boy who had once punched his second stepfather for calling me that old woman. The teenager who'd show up at my door with a bruised jaw and that hot, restless anger in his eyes. The kid no one had time for, except me. You're wealthy, I said slowly, taking in the watch, the coat, the easy way he'd spoken to the doctor. He shrugged. Comfortable. That's not a comfortable watch, I pointed out. That made him smile again, softer this time. I've done well, he said simply. Changed my name, got a decent job, a couple of good breaks. Long story. You'll hear it, but not today. Today you just have to agree to one thing. What? Come live with me, I blinked. I have a house. He nodded. And your daughters have keys, and access, and opinions. You really want to go back there after this? Wait for them to remember you exist when they need a babysitter or a signature. His words hit harder than the anesthesia. I can't just disappear, I protested weakly. He raised an eyebrow. You're talking to a man who deleted himself from social media and family gatherings at 19. Trust me, you can. I already moved your essentials. You what? He grinned. Relax. I broke in like a gentleman with the spare key under the ceramic frog. Same place it's been since I was 10. Packed a suitcase with your clothes, grabbed your documents, your medicine, that ridiculous teapot you love. Everything else can wait. My daughters will notice, I murmured, a small, dark thrill running through me at the thought. Good, he said. Let them. He leaned back, studying me again. They didn't give you a cent, did they? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The look that crossed his face then made me understand two things at once. One, whatever soft, impulsive boy he had been was gone. Two, my daughters had just made a very expensive mistake. Grandma, he said quietly, there's a lot you don't know about what I've been doing. About why I left. About them, I repeated. What did they do? He shook his head. Later. When you're not full of drugs and stitched together like a patchwork quilt. For now, I just need you to trust me. I thought of the bank statement, of the doctor's question, of the way my eldest's voice had gone hard when she said, "And if you die during the operation, who will repay me?" Trusting people had not gone well for me lately. But this was the boy who used to sit at my kitchen table building cities out of sugar cubes, telling me he'd get rich one day and buy me a house where no one could bother me. "You really have room?" I asked, half teasing. "Or will I be sharing a mattress on the floor of some bachelor cave?" He smirked. "You'll see." I closed my eyes for a moment, exhaustion washing over me. When I opened them again, he was still there, solid, real. Not a dream. "All right," I whispered. "I'll come." His shoulders dropped, just a fraction, as if he'd been holding his breath. "Good," he said. "Then let's make a deal." "Oh, I love deals," I murmured. "Especially when they don't involve bills." He leaned in and lowered his voice. "You're not answering their calls." "Not for a while." "My daughters?" I asked. "Yes." "Let them wonder. Let them drive to your house and find it empty. Let them feel what it's like to need something and not get an answer." A part of me flinched, another part, a smaller, steelier part I'd been smothering for years, sat up and took notice. "That's cruel," I said. He smiled without humor. "No, Grandma, that's a start." 2 days later, I left the hospital by his side, walking slowly, hand on his arm. The nurse assumed he'd parked outside in some little hatchback. When we stepped out, I saw it, a dark, sleek car that hummed rather than roared when he unlocked it. The kind of car you only see in commercials or in the "you'll never afford this" side of town. I stopped on the curb, staring. "Comfortable," I repeated dryly. "MMHMM." He opened the passenger door, ignoring my tone. "Careful with the stitches," he said. We drove in silence at first, the city sliding past the window. I watched familiar streets give way to unfamiliar ones. Old brick buildings to glass towers. The kind of neighborhood where no one hangs their laundry outside, and every balcony has the same perfect plants that some underpaid gardener waters at 6 a.m. "Alex," I said slowly, as we turned into an underground garage that looked cleaner than my kitchen floor. "Where exactly are we going?" He smiled, that secret, sharp smile of his. "Home," he said. "Ours for now." He parked in a space marked with a number that matched nothing in my old life. As we stepped into the elevator, mirrored walls, soft lighting, soft music, I caught my reflection, pale, tired, scar peeking above the collar of my blouse. But my eyes looked different, less apologetic. The elevator climbed, floor numbers glowing, 10, 12, 15. Finally, it chimed. When the doors slid open, I braced myself for whatever comfortable meant in Alex's vocabulary. What I saw made me grab his arm. "Alex," I whispered. "What on earth have you gotten yourself into?" Because the hallway we stepped into did not belong to a lost, angry boy from a broken home. It belonged to someone powerful. Someone who had been planning something for a very, very long time. And as I crossed the threshold into his apartment, feeling a strange little thrill in my chest, I realized something else. For the first time in my life, I was the one disappearing. And my daughters. They were about to discover what it feels like when mom stops picking up the phone. The apartment Alex led me into wasn't just comfortable. It wasn't even luxurious. No. This place was the kind of home people in movies inherit from mysterious uncles who die under dramatic circumstances. High ceilings, soft lighting, floors that weren't quite wood and weren't quite stone, something expensive in between. A panoramic view that stretched across the city like a glittering quilt. And in the middle of it all, a kitchen island bigger than my first apartment. "My God," I whispered. "Did you rob a bank?" "Not yet," he said casually, taking my coat. "But there were days I considered it." Typical Alex humor, dry as dessert soil and twice as dangerous. He settled me into a plush armchair that hugged my bones like it had been designed to heal surgical patients specifically. "Stay put," he said. "I'll bring you water." I watched him stride into the kitchen, pouring it like he'd done this 1,000 times. Which, of course, he hadn't, at least not with me. The last time he'd been in my kitchen, he was slamming cupboards after a fight with his stepfather, yelling that no one in this family understood him. And the truth, they didn't accept me. But now he was a man, sharp-edged, confident, wearing success like a second skin, a man with secrets, and I planned to pry those secrets open eventually. The way grandmothers pry open stubborn jam jars. For now, though. I sipped my water and pretended I wasn't having an out-of-body experience. My phone vibrated. I didn't need to look. I knew the ringtone. My eldest. "Don't," Alex warned from the kitchen. "It could be important," I countered. He raised one eyebrow. "Define important," I sighed. "Maybe she's worried." He walked over, took the phone from my trembling hand, and turned it face up so I could see the screen. 12 missed calls. 3 voicemails. A text. "Mom, where are you? This isn't funny." Then another, "If you're punishing us, this is childish." Then, "Mom, I'm getting angry now, call me." I closed my eyes. It was happening. Slowly, inevitably. The panic. The realization that I wasn't waiting by the phone for their half-hearted apologies. I wasn't asking for scraps. I wasn't even available. I was gone. "Let her sweat," Alex murmured. "That's unkind," I whispered. "So is asking who will reimburse her if you die," he shot back. "Fair point." He placed the phone on the table, screen down. "When you're ready, we'll deal with them." "But not today." "Deal with them," I repeated weakly. He didn't elaborate. For the next 2 days, I slept like the dead. Surgery, emotion, betrayal, it all crashed over me, leaving me exhausted. Alex worked from home, taking calls in another room. When he walked past, I could hear snippets. "Yes, I want the projections by Friday." "No, I don't do partnerships. Tell them if they want the algorithm. They deal with me directly." I said. "No investors." "Algorithm?" "Investors." What exactly had my grandson become? One afternoon I shuffled into the living room wearing the robe he'd bought me that morning, silky, soft, far too glamorous for a woman who still used drugstore moisturizer. "What do you actually do?" I asked, leaning on the door frame. He paused midway through typing and looked at me. For a moment, he hesitated, like he was deciding how much of himself he was ready to reveal. Then he said, "Cybersecurity. Predictive systems. High-risk clients." "High risk," I repeated. "Like criminals." He smirked. "No. Like people who have a lot to lose, and they trust you more than they trust most people," he said simply. The confidence in his voice startled me. The boy who used to hide bruised knuckles now spoke like someone who'd won battles most people didn't know existed. I sat beside him. "Why did you leave home, Alex? Really?" His jaw tightened. "My stepfather," he said finally. "The last one. He told my mother to choose." My heart stopped. "Choose?" He said. "I ruined things. That I was a liability. An embarrassment. Too angry." He looked away. "And she told me I needed to work on myself, that I should move out for a while." "Let them have peace, dear God," I breathed. "She chose him," he said, voice flat. So I left. I reached for his hand. He let me take it. "You had me," I whispered. "I know," he said softly. "That's why I'm here now." By the 4th day, the daughters began escalating. My youngest sent a barrage of text messages ranging from "Mom, please call me" to "If something happened, it's your fault for disappearing." The middle daughter wrote a long, dramatic monologue about worry and boundaries, and how upsetting it was that I didn't inform them of my discharge. And the eldest, she called so many times the voicemail box filled up. Then she drove to my house. Alex got the notification first. He had the security cameras on his phone. "Look," he said, handing me the device. There she was, my eldest, standing in front of my house, arms crossed, pacing like a detective on a crime show. She knocked, rang the bell, called me again. Then she tried to open the door. "Why does she have a key?" Alex asked coolly. "I gave copies to all three," I admitted. "For emergencies, yes." He leaned back, arms crossed. "Interesting how emergencies only go one way." The video showed her stepping inside and shouting, "Mom! Mom!" then stomping through the living room, then slamming the front door. "She'll come back," I murmured. "Oh, I'm counting on it," he replied. That night, as I sipped tea in the enormous, quiet apartment that somehow felt more like home than my own house ever had, I asked Alex, "What is your plan?" He smiled without warmth. "You'll see. That worries me. That's because you raised people who don't fear consequences," he said calmly. "But you and I, we're going to fix that." I opened my mouth to scold him, then closed it again. Because deep down, a part of me, a small, sharp part that had been stepped on for decades, wanted consequences, wanted justice, wanted a world where kindness wasn't treated like a resource to exploit. I looked at him over my teacup. "And what exactly are we fixing?" He leaned back, eyes glinting the same way they did when he was 10 and planning an elaborate prank involving a water balloon and his math teacher. "We're going to teach your daughters," he said, "that abandoning you was the most expensive mistake of their lives." I swallowed. "And how do we do that?" "Oh," he said lightly, tapping something on his phone as the security footage showed my eldest returning to my empty house at midnight by giving them exactly what they gave. Why? Ooh, a cold thrill ran through me. Fear, excitement, justice? I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. And whatever Alex had planned, it was only just beginning. I woke up on the fifth morning in Alex's apartment to the smell of coffee and something vaguely resembling breakfast. When I shuffled into the kitchen, he was standing over a frying pan, wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, looking entirely too competent for someone who once burned cereal. "You're cooking," I said, surprised. "I've evolved," he replied, sliding an omelet onto a plate. "Sit." I sat. He poured me coffee, the expensive kind that tastes like it comes from a mountain where monks sing to the beans. "So," he said, "your eldest came to your house at midnight." I groaned. "I figured." She left a note on the door. "Oh dear." He slid his phone toward me. A photo of the note appeared on the screen. "Mom, this has gone too far. Call me immediately. I'm getting worried." "Why is your suitcase gone? Did someone take you?" "If this is your way of punishing us, you're being dramatic." "Dramatic," I repeated, sipping my coffee, "says the woman who once cried for an hour because her husband forgot to buy almond milk. She'll be back today," Alex said. I turned on motion alerts. "Well, no." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you always this prepared, Grandma?" he said seriously. "I've been preparing for years." By noon, my phone was vibrating again. A group chat created by my eldest daughter titled "Family Emergency Mom." I nearly choked on my tea. They were messaging one another frantically. "Eldest, have either of you heard from Mom?" "Middle, no. Her house is empty." "Youngest, her car is still in the driveway. Maybe she's hurt somewhere." "Eldest, I'm calling the hospitals." "Middle, if she's in the hospital she would have told us." "Youngest, not if she's unconscious." Alex snorted. "Now they're concerned. This feels wrong," I whispered, guilt clawing up my throat. He looked at me with a patience I hadn't earned. "Grandma, they left you alone before major surgery. Guilt is a luxury for people who got flowers and soup when they were sick." He had a point. "But motherhood is a curse. Even when they hurt you, you worry about them. Can't I just send a short message?" I asked. "Just so they know I'm alive." He tilted his head, studying me. "You think they want you alive because they love you. His voice softened. But they want you alive. So you can still be useful. I opened my mouth to argue, but a security alert flashed on his phone. He picked it up. Ah, she's back. He turned the screen toward me. My eldest was once again standing at my front door, but this time she brought back up my middle daughter. They both went inside, speaking animatedly. We could only make out bits through the audio feed. Not like her to vanish. Maybe she's losing it. Or she went to stay with some friend. Does she even have friends? Try calling the neighbors. I pressed a hand to my chest. My heart physically hurt. Not from the surgery. From them. Alex turned off the audio and spoke calmly. You know what stage this is. What? Panic mixed with self-absorption. Give it another 2 days, and we move into the blame phase. I didn't want to ask, but I did. And after that, desperation. His voice darkened. That's when things get interesting. That evening, he sat down with me at the dining table, a massive, glossy thing that reflected the city lights. Grandma, he said, and that tone quiet, firm made me straighten like a schoolgirl about to be handed an important assignment. We need to talk about your money. What money? The $300,000 you gave your daughters. My hand froze halfway to my teacup. That's gone. It's theirs. I gave it willingly. Yes, he said. And they still let you go into surgery alone. I looked away. That was my choice. No, he corrected gently. Your choice was to love them. Their choice was to take advantage. The room seemed to shrink around me. I don't want revenge, I whispered. Then don't call it revenge, he said. Call it balance. He opened his laptop. Numbers and accounts flashed on the screen. Before you panic, he added, I'm not hacking anything illegal. But I know how they handle money. I've been watching. I blinked. Watching. For 5 years. Yes. Why? He hesitated. Then, slowly, because I wanted to see if any of them would look for me. My breath caught. They didn't. He added with a half smile that hurt more than anything my daughters had said to me. Alex, it's fine. I'm used to it. He moved on briskly. Let's talk assets. Your eldest refinanced her house last year. Your middle daughter put her husband's car in her name. And your youngest has credit card debt deep enough to drown a rhinoceros. A rhinoceros, I repeated, incredulous. You'd be surprised what people will buy on installment plans, he said wryly. I rubbed my forehead. What does any of this have to do with me? It has to do with leverage, he said. Don't worry. I'll explain as we go. For now, I need one thing. What? A decision? His eyes locked onto mine. Are you willing, he asked softly, to stop saving them and start saving yourself? Silence. Then, slowly, as if the words were rising from a place deep in my bones, I answered, yes. His smile wasn't triumphant. It was proud. Good, he said. Then we start tomorrow. Tomorrow arrived sooner than expected. The next morning, while I was eating toast and pretending not to be nervous about whatever Alex had planned, he suddenly froze, staring at his phone. What is it? I asked. He turned the screen toward me. My eldest daughter, standing in front of a realtor's car, in front of my house. She held a clipboard. She pointed to the front door. The realtor nodded. They walked inside. My toast fell out of my hand. She's selling my house, I whispered. Alex's jaw clenched. I told you. Desperation, but she can't, she doesn't have the right. She has the key, he said, and she assumes you're too frail or too confused to stop her. They think you're losing your grip. I grabbed the table for stability. My head spun. They wouldn't, would they? Oh, Alex said. They would. Because they think you'll come crawling back eventually. And when you do, they'll have an excuse ready. My throat tightened. She was selling my home. The home I had worked 2 jobs for. The home where I raised them. The home where I thought I'd grow old. Alex, I choked. What do we do? He put his phone down deliberately. We teach her, he said. That stealing from you is the last mistake she'll ever make. I swallowed hard. And how do we do that? He smiled that dangerous little smile. Oh, Grandma, he said softly. Welcome to Phase 3. Phase 3. I echoed, my heart pounding. Yes, he replied, retribution with interest. I didn't know it then, but the moment my daughter stepped into my house with a real taw, she didn't just cross a boundary. She triggered something in Alex. Something protective. Something calculating. Something that had been waiting 5 years for an outlet. And as I sat there in his beautiful apartment, watching the woman I once rocked to sleep prepared to sell the roof over my head, I realized something terrible and true. My daughters had raised a storm without knowing it. And now it was coming for them in the shape of the one person they had cast out and underestimated. My grandson. My ally. My reckoning. And I was no longer the woman who begged for kindness. I was the woman who was about to reclaim everything she lost. With interest. When your child tries to sell your house while you're still breathing, something inside you doesn't just crack. It rearranges. I felt it that morning, something shifting in me, settling into a shape I had never allowed myself to take. Not mother. Not victim. Something older, sharper. A woman who'd spent 62 years giving and had finally reached the moment of taking back. Alex saw it too. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply placed a file folder in front of me as if he had been expecting this all along. What's this? I asked. Insurance, he said. And the beginning of our counter-strike. The word counter-strike made me want to laugh and cry at the same time, but when I opened the folder, the laugh died in my throat. Inside were documents, copies of deeds, bank statements, mortgage agreements, loan applications, credit histories. My daughters. All three of them. Alex, I whispered, my pulse thudding in my ears. How? You'd be shocked how easy it is to find things when you know where to look, he said calmly. Your daughters aren't careful. They assume no one is watching, and you've been watching them for years. He said it without shame, without hesitation. Because to him, watching wasn't surveillance. It was survival. Why did you gather all of this? I asked. His eyes darkened. Because I knew one day they'd try to hurt you. And I wasn't going to let them. I closed the folder carefully, as if it were a bomb. Alex, what is your plan? He leaned back, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the table. First, we stop the sale. How? By making sure the realtor realizes the house isn't hers to list. But she has the key. Yes, he said. And that's the problem. Realtors assume the person with the key is authorized. If they find out that someone tried to sell property they don't own, they panic. They back away fast. I swallowed. What do we tell the realtor? Oh, he said. We won't tell her anything. A cold ripple went through me. Alex. He softened. Nothing illegal, I promise. But I'll make sure the realtor receives information that makes her very uncomfortable moving forward. What kind of information? The kind that makes people drop a client in under 10 seconds. He stood and grabbed his laptop. Meanwhile, he said, we attend to Phase 4. Phase 4, I repeated weakly. What happened to Phase 3? You slept through most of it, he said dryly. I blinked. How many phases are there? He grinned, enough to restore the balance. By midday, he was typing furiously. Headphones on, brow furrowed in concentration. I pretended to read on the couch, but my eyes kept drifting to him, the way his jaw clenched when he focused, the way his fingers moved like he was conducting some unseen orchestra. He looked nothing like the angry, bruised boy who used to sleep on my couch after fights with his stepfather. He looked like a man who had clawed his way up from hell and built himself a throne from the bones of every obstacle in his path. And now he was using that power for me. My eyes filled unexpectedly. Grandma, he said without looking up. You're crying. No, I'm not, I lied, wiping my cheek. Yes, you are, he said, still typing. But it's the good kind. The I'm finally waking up to my own worth kind, I sniffed. You're very confident for a boy who used to glue his fingers together on purpose. That was a science experiment, he said. It was idiotic. Same difference. At 3 p.m., the security alert chimed again. There she is, Alex murmured. My eldest returned to the house with a folder and her professional face, the face she used when she was trying to look competent and in control. My middle daughter trailed behind her, looking nauseous. They spoke to the realtor in the driveway. We couldn't hear the words, but we saw the gestures. My eldest pointed toward the house. The realtor frowned. My daughter spoke faster. The realtor's expression tightened. My daughter became agitated. The realtor took a step back. Then another. Then shook her head. And then, to my horror and delight, the realtor got in her car and drove off fast. My daughters stood frozen in the driveway like two mannequins who'd just been told they were going out of style. I pressed a hand to my mouth. Alex, did you? He closed his laptop with a quiet click. I emailed her documentation showing the house is in your sole name and that your daughters have previously attempted to make financial decisions without your consent. They what? Oh yes, he said. Your eldest tried to use your name on a loan application 2 years ago. She what? Alex shrugged. It was denied. But the record exists. I simply forwarded it to the realtor as a concerned third party. Realtors hate risk. She'll never touch that listing again. I felt equal parts sick and vindicated. My eldest, my responsible daughter, my dependable daughter had tried to use my name to get a loan. What else don't I know? I whispered. A lot, he said. But we're working through it. By evening, the family group chat was in full meltdown. Eldest, Mom's house can't be sold because you know what? She's losing it. We need to intervene. Middle, what does you know what mean? Youngest, are you implying something? Eldest, don't text this, call me. Oh, she's panicking, Alex said with satisfaction. Good. I stared at the screen, horrified. What does she mean? You know what? Alex gave me a look. Grandma, your daughters have been telling people you're becoming forgetful. I froze. Forgetful? Yes. It started small, misplacing things, repeating stories. Normal aging things, but they exaggerated it a lot. To whom? I whispered. To relatives. Neighbors? He paused. And last year, to a bank officer. My stomach twisted. They were trying to establish a narrative. He continued. A way to justify taking control of things later. Control. Not love. Not support. Not care. Control. I raised them. I whispered. How did they become this? He didn't answer. Some things don't have answers. Later, after dinner, after my tears had dried and the city lights sparkled like nothing in my life had ever gone wrong, Alex sat across from me again. There's one more thing, he said. I don't know if I can take one more thing, but he slid a document toward me anyway. A bank statement. My name. My account. And a deposit. From 5 years ago. $35,000. What is this? I whispered. The money I promised I'd pay you back, he said quietly. From when I lived with you that summer, I stared at him. Alex, I never expected. I know, he said. You were the only one who didn't expect anything. My throat closed. And now, he added softly, I'm going to help you get back the money you gave them. All of it, I swallowed. But how? He leaned forward. By using the one thing they love more than you. What's that? He smiled. Money. As I went to bed that night in the guest room that felt like a cloud, one last alert chimed on Alex's phone. Let me guess. I called from the hallway. My daughters are back at the house. No, he said. Then what? He looked at the screen. Then at me. They're calling the police. My heart stopped. The police? Why? He turned the screen so I could see. My eldest daughter had filed a missing person report. My face went cold. Alex, I whispered, what do we do now? He smiled. Now, he said. Now we move to the part where they learn exactly who they're dealing with. He paused. And who you've become. A chill of anticipation, strange, Electric ran through me because for the first time in decades, I didn't feel like a helpless mother. I felt like a woman with a storm behind her. And my daughters, they were about to feel the thunder. The next morning, I woke to the smell of cinnamon. Alex was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, making French toast like some domestic angel of vengeance. "We need sugar," he announced, flipping a slice. Retribution requires carbs. I couldn't help laughing, really laughing for the first time in weeks. But that lightness evaporated when he slid his phone toward me. "Your daughters called again," he said. 14 times. I sighed. "They filed a missing person report. Of course they're calling." "Oh, not about you," he corrected. My brows knit. "Then, about what?" He tapped another notification. "They're calling about him." "Who? Me?" My stomach dropped. My daughters had discovered the impossible, that Alex, the grandson they believed gone, erased, unfindable, was not only alive, but prosperous. And now, suspicious. "They traced me," I whispered. "Oh no," he said. "They couldn't trace me if I stood in front of their house wearing a neon sign. They heard about me the old-fashioned way." "How?" he smirked. "Neighborhood gossip. Someone saw me picking you up from the hospital." I froze. "And," he continued, "your eldest apparently asked the wrong person too many questions about where you were. That person mentioned seeing you with a tall man in a suit who looked like he worked for the government." I covered my face. "Oh Lord." "So," Alex said, setting down the spatula, "your eldest has now decided I kidnapped you." I dropped my hands and blinked. "Kidnap me?" "She's very fond of dramatic narratives," he said. "It explains why she's on husband number 3 and personality number 6, despite everything." I snorted. "And what exactly did she tell the police?" I asked. "That you were last seen with a suspicious young man. Describe my car. My build. My hair." I stared at him, numb. "So, what happens now?" "They'll try to reach you officially. If they can't, they'll send someone to your house for a welfare check." "At my empty house," I murmured. "Exactly." He poured syrup over the French toast. "And that," he said calmly, "is when we turn the tables." An hour later, Alex sat me at the dining table with a glass of water. "Grandma, you need to hear something," he said gently. I stiffened. "What now?" He placed a printed email in front of me. I didn't recognize the sender, but I recognized the tone: corporate, cold. It was a notice. A formal notice from my eldest daughter's employer. "A complaint," I whispered. Alex nodded. "She tried to involve her workplace in the search for you. Claimed she needed confidential client access to get information. She wet. It triggered an audit," he explained. "The company is unhappy." "Oh no," I groaned, massaging my temples. "What does that mean?" "It means she's spiraling," Alex said simply. "People who panic make mistakes." My heart squeezed. "I never wanted her harmed, and she never wanted you safe," Alex replied, not unkindly. "Actions have consequences." I swallowed hard. Then, softly, "I didn't raise her to be this." He looked at me with a tenderness that made my throat tighten. "You raised her to believe love was abundant," he said. "She decided it meant love was owed." By midday, things escalated further. My daughters showed up at my house again, this time with a police officer. Alex and I watched through the security feed as the officer knocked, called my name, peered through the windows, then turned to my daughters with a long, skeptical stare. We couldn't hear their words, but their body language was loud enough. The officer was unconvinced. My daughters were angry. And then my eldest did something so outrageous Alex froze the video. She pointed directly at the security camera. "It's like she's accusing the camera of a crime," I said, horrified and slightly amused. "Oh, she's accusing me," Alex replied. "Watch." He unmuted the audio. My eldest's voice shrieked through the speakers. "She's being watched. Someone is monitoring her, someone dangerous. Look at the camera. They're spying on her." I buried my face in my hands. The police officer sighed. "Mom, lots of homeowners have security cameras. But who installed this one?" she demanded. "The homeowner," he replied flatly. Alex paused the feed and looked at me. She's unraveling. I nodded. Exhausted? What now? He leaned back. Now, he said. She did something stupid. He was right. An hour later, she proved it. At 4:36 p.m., my phone dinged with a bank alert. I frowned. What's this? Alex's head snapped up. Whose bank? Mine. I opened the notification. A withdrawal attempt. At a local branch. For $5,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. My eldest, I whispered. She must have found my spare bank card. Impossible, Alex said. You don't keep it at the house. Where did you? And then I remembered. The purse I had taken to the hospital. The purse my eldest had picked up from the nurse's station the day of the surgery so it wouldn't get lost. Oh God, I breathed. She went through my things. Alex stood so fast his chair slid back. She tried to steal from you, he said, voice cold as winter steel. Good, good, I wheezed. Because now, he said, grabbing his laptop, she's given us the perfect opportunity. He typed quickly. Lines of code appeared. Alerts. Authentications. What are you doing? I demanded. Securing your accounts, he said calmly. Resetting everything. Locking her out. She'll know I changed the passwords. Yes, he said. That's the point. He looked up with fire in his eyes. She needs to learn she can't control you anymore. By evening, another message arrived in the family group chat. Eldest, Mom's bank card isn't working. Did she change something? Where is she? This is getting out of control. Middle? Maybe. What if someone else took her? Youngest, should we call the police again? Eldest, we do not contact the police again. I'll handle this. Alex smirked. She's sweating. She's scared, I corrected. She's scared because she's guilty, he replied. There's a difference. I didn't argue. Night fell. The city glowed. My daughters panicked in a house that wasn't theirs, and I. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel powerless. I felt precise. Directed. Sharpened like the tip of an arrow. Because when the people you love betray you, something ancient wakes inside you, not anger, not vengeance, but a fierce, primal clarity. I will not be used anymore. Alex approached me in the balcony where I stood watching the skyline. Grandma, he said softly. You okay? Yes, I said, surprised by my own calm. He slipped his arm round my shoulders. There's something you should know, he said. The bank notified me too. Why you? Because, he said simply, your daughters aren't the only ones who've been investigating things. What do you mean? I've been tracking the money you gave them. I stared at him. And then he said the words that would change everything. Your eldest isn't just deep in debt, Grandma. She's hiding something much bigger. Something that involves your money. And tomorrow? He exhaled slowly. Tomorrow we expose it. A thrill, fear, and justice intertwined passed through me. Alex, I whispered. What did she do? He looked at me with eyes far older than 24. Something she hoped you'd never live long enough to find out. I didn't sleep that night. Who could sleep after hearing their own grandson say the words, your daughter is hiding something huge, with the same tone one uses to discuss a natural disaster? I lay awake in the soft guest bed of Alex's impossibly elegant apartment, staring at the ceiling, mural clouds, gold streaks. Something celestial, and wondered how my life had gone from quiet suffering to strategic warfare in less than 2 weeks. At dawn, Alex knocked softly. You awake? Yes. Good. We have a busy day. He entered with 2 cups of tea, Earl Grey for me. Something neon and energetic for him, and sat on the edge of the bed like he used to when he was 12 and wanted to tell me a sec. Right after everyone else was asleep. Grandma, he said gently, are you ready? For what? I asked, though I already knew. For the truth. I closed my eyes. Tell me, I whispered. He exhaled. Your eldest daughter didn't just spend your money irresponsibly. She didn't just refinance her home. She used your gift, your $100,000 as collateral. I froze. Collateral for what? He looked at me with apology and fury intertwined. A business loan, he said softly. For her husband. A loan that failed. They defaulted, my pulse hammered in my ears. She risked my savings on her husband's business. Yes. And then hid it. Yes. I pressed my fist to my mouth. How do you know this? I whispered. Alex opened a folder paper, old school. As if the truth needed a physical form to carry its weight. I tracked the funds. Every dollar. He flipped the first page. She transferred $35,000 to a private account the same week you gifted her the 100. Then another $42,000 3 months later. Then a final transfer $23,000 just before the business collapsed. My vision blurred. She used it all, I choked. Every dollar. Yes. And she lied, I whispered. She lied when I asked her how they afforded that second kitchen renovation. She said she and her husband had saved. Alex nodded. She also lied about the refinancing, and the loan default, and the credit line she opened in your name, but didn't get far enough to activate. My breath caught. What? She tried to apply, he said, but she failed the verification questions. Someone had protected your profile. Yes. I closed my eyes as the room spun slowly around me. My eldest daughter, the disciplined one, the responsible one, the one I trusted most, had tried to borrow against my life in more ways than one. She thought you'd never find out, Alex said quietly. She thought you'd die before the truth came out. A sound escaped my throat, half sob, half growl. And then, without thinking, I whispered the words I had been afraid to say out loud. I want it back. Alex's expression turned serious, almost reverent. All of it? Yes, I said, a trembling strength rising inside me. Every cent. He nodded once. Then today, he said, we begin. The first part of the plan unfolded like choreography. At 10:12 a.m., Alex triggered a simple action, a password reset on my eldest daughter's email account. Not to break in, he wasn't a criminal, but to send a message. She received the reset alert and, panicked, we watched through the security feed as she stood in my driveway. Phone pressed to her ear, pacing aggressively. She's calling your middle daughter, Alex narrated. Seconds later, the middle daughter arrived, hair unbrushed, wearing slippers. They argued. Not about me. About the email. About the bank lockout. About the realtor backing out. About their fear that someone was coming after them. Alex smiled faintly. They think they're being hunted, aren't they? I murmured. He looked at me, a long, thoughtful look. Not hunted, he said. Cornered. At noon, the real strike landed. Alex had arranged everything ahead of time, quietly, legally, elegantly. He sent each of my daughters a formal notice. Not from him, from me, a digital document. Notarized and time-stamped. Revocation of financial gifts. Under state law, gifts may be contested or reclaimed in the presence of fraud, coercion, or misuse of funds. Julia, request immediate return of the financial sums previously transferred. Pending legal review. I gasped when I saw it. Alex, is this legal? Completely, he said. But more importantly, it's terrifying to someone who's been lying. My phone, resting on the table, lit up like fireworks. Call after call. Name after name. I didn't pick up. Alex didn't even let me look at the screen. They're panicking, he said. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered. He took my hands. Grandma, look at me. I did. You love them, he said. You raised them. You gave them everything. Now you're asking for what was stolen, not what was given. My eyes burned. I just never wanted a war. War came to your door the moment they walked in with a realtor, he said. You're just defending yourself now. I inhaled shakily. All right, I said. What next? He smiled. Next, they come to us. At 2:04 p.m., it happened, a security alert, then another. Then Alex's eyes widened in amusement. Well, he said. That was fast. What? He turned the screen toward me, my eldest daughter. Standing at the door of Alex's building, my heart stopped. Alex, I gasped. She found you. Yes, he said with irritation and amusement in equal measure, because she followed the one breadcrumb we didn't hide. What breadcrumb? You. He pointed to my hospital discharge form, which the nurse had handed to my daughter along with my belongings. It listed the hospital's transportation record, which listed my license plate. I stared at him. You let that happen? No, he said. I counted on it. I covered my mouth. You wanted her to find us? Yes, he said. Because this isn't about running. It's about confrontation. Then he added, with a colder tone, and she needs to confront what she did. The elevator dinged. My eldest daughter stepped out, eyes wild, hair frizzy, breathing fast. She saw Alex first, then me. Her jaw dropped. Mom, she gasped. You're alive. You're staying here? With him, I straightened in my chair. Something inside me, something long dormant, rose and stood tall. Yes, I said evenly. I am. She blinked. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you answer? Why are you hiding from your own family? Alex let out a quiet breath. Here we go. I ignored him. My daughter stepped closer. We've been searching everywhere. We were worried. I lifted my chin. You were worried, I said calmly. Because you couldn't find me. Not because you missed me. She froze. I continued. You weren't worried when I needed surgery. You weren't worried when I asked for help. You weren't worried when you picked up my purse at the hospital, but instead of checking on me, you checked my bank cards. Her face drained of color. And, I said softly, you weren't worried when you tried to sell my home. Mom, I can explain. No, I said. You can't. She turned to Alex, desperate. You're manipulating her. You took her. You're after her money. Alex actually laughed. Auntie, he said, I returned the money she once lent me. Did you? She froze. I stepped forward then, feeling something powerful and frightening settle into my bones. You came to demand money from my grandson, I said. Just like you took from me. For years. Her eyes filled with tears. Mom, I didn't take. Then pay it back, I said simply. She stopped breathing. What? Return the 100,000, but we don't have. Then, I said, you shouldn't have spent it. Alex put a hand on my shoulder, not guiding, not controlling, supporting. My daughter broke then. Like a dam cracking. Anger poured out first. You owe me, she shouted. I raised your grandson. I suffered because of him. Alex stepped forward, eyes icy. No, he said. You suffered because you made choices, bad ones. And you lied to cover them. Grandma didn't ruin your life. You did. My daughter turned back to me, shaking. Mom, please. Please don't do this. We're a family, I nodded slowly. Yes, I said, we are. And family doesn't abandon its own. She froze. And you did. Tears streamed down her face. Mom, please, I'm begging, don't make us pay that money back. We'll lose everything. I looked at her, really looked at her. The girl I raised. The woman she became. The stranger standing before me. And I said the words she never expected. Then lose it. Her breath hitched. And for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. She stumbled backward. Fine, she whispered. If you want a war, you'll get one. She ran for the elevator. Alex stared after her, jaw tight. Well, he muttered, that went better than expected. I let out a shaky breath. Alex, what happens now? He looked at me with that fierce, loyal fire again. Now, he said, she rallies your other daughters. And they come after us. He paused. And when they do, we'll be ready. I sank into the chair, overwhelmed. Alex, I didn't want it to come to this. He knelt beside me. Grandma, he whispered, this didn't start with what you wanted. It started with what they did. I closed my eyes. And part 7, I whispered. He touched my hand gently. Part 7, he said, is where we finish this. And somewhere deep inside me, I knew I was ready. My eldest daughter's retreat was not surrender, it was regrouping. By the next morning, the group chat exploded with furious messages. Eldest, we need to meet. All three of us. Now. Middle, mom's being manipulated. Youngest, I can't believe she chose HIM over us. After everything? Eldest, we're not letting this stand. Alex watched the messages appear like small fires on his screen. They're uniting, he said calmly. I swallowed. Against me, against accountability, he corrected. There's a difference, but inside me, something trembled, the familiar mother instinct, the one that whispered, fix this, protect them, smooth it over. Except smoothing it over was what had brought us here in the first place. So I stood quietly in the kitchen, staring into my tea as the sisters planned their counterattack. Youngest, we'll go to mom's house in the morning. She'll show up eventually, eldest. And when she does, we'll talk to her without him. Middle, she has to listen. We're her children. I felt Alex's gaze. Are you having second thoughts? He asked softly. I took a long breath. I'm having mother thoughts, I said. They're worse. He touched my hand. You can still love them, he said. You just don't have to let them destroy your life. Those words settled something deep in me. Yes, I said. You're right. Because I did love them. That was the curse. But I finally loved myself, too. The sisters' plan. By mid-afternoon, the three of them arrived at my house in a single car, my eldest driving, my middle daughter looking anxious, my youngest looking ready to cry or punch someone or both through the security feed. We watched them step inside. They think waiting there forces you to return, Alex murmured. I stiffened. What are they going to do? Talk, he said. Complain. Twist things. Try to regain control. They're rehearsing their victim narrative. It was worse than he predicted. We muted the sound, but we didn't have to hear their words. Their faces told the story. The eldest pacing and pointing aggressively, no doubt blaming Alex. The middle collapsing into a chair dramatically, hand to her forehead. The youngest crying into her hands, shaking her head like she was the wounded party. A grotesque little theater of entitlement. Alex leaned back. They're going to demand money, he said. Guaranteed. And if I don't give it, he shrugged. Then they escalate. I frowned. How? What else can they do? Oh, Alex said quietly. They have one more move. I felt a chill. What move? Alex turned the camera feed back toward me. Legal guardianship. I gasped. No, they wouldn't. They can't. They suggested dementia to a bank officer once. He reminded me. If they think you're unpredictable or being influenced, they can file a welfare petition. I grabbed the table. That means, he nodded. They can claim you're not capable of managing your own finances and try to take control of everything. I felt the blood drain from my face. And will they? They're already talking about it, he said, tapping the feed. Look, my eldest daughter held a folder labeled Family Legal Options. I closed my eyes. My own daughters, I whispered, after everything. Alex's voice hardened. This is why we finished this today. At 5:30 p.m., Alex stood. It's time, he said. Time for what? I asked. To go home. I stared. To my house. Yes. Now, yes. Alex, they're inside. Exactly. My pulse raced. I can't face them like this. I'm not ready. You are, he said. Steady and sure, you're more ready than you've ever been. I hesitated. Then I stood. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. We drove to my house in silence. The sun was setting a golden wash across the street, warm and deceptive, like peace just before a battle is declared. Alex parked across the street. You go in first, he said. I'll follow after you speak your piece. My piece, I echoed. Yes. Your truth. Without interruption, I inhaled deeply and crossed the street. My daughters were inside, bickering about something when I opened the door. The moment they saw me, three faces froze. 3 pairs of eyes widened. 3 daughters stopped breathing. "Oh, Mom," the youngest whispered. "Where have you been?" the middle demanded. "We need to talk," the eldest said sharply. And I realized they still believed they could corner me, control me, shape the narrative. Not today. "You've said enough," I replied, stepping deeper into the room. "Now it's my turn." They all blinked. I had never spoken like that before. Not to them. Not ever. The truth, and caged. "I know what you tried to do," I began, voice steady as stone. "I know about the house. I know about the bank card. I know about the loans. The refinancing. The lies." My eldest opened her mouth, but I lifted my hand. "No, you don't speak." She froze. "You only listen," I continued. "Because for the first time in your lives, this conversation belongs to me." The youngest burst into tears. The middle started shaking her head. The eldest looked furious. "You left me alone when I needed you," I said. "You mocked me for asking for help. You acted as if my life had no value unless it benefited you." Their faces twisted, guilt and defensiveness mixing like oil and water. "And now," I said, stepping back, "you will face the consequences." The eldest snapped. "You can't punish us. We're your daughters. I'm your mother," I corrected. "Not your savings account." The room went quiet as winter. "I gave each of you $100,000, I said, "a gift of love, a sacrifice of my future." "For yours," I pointed at the eldest. "And you gambled it," I pointed at the middle. "And you used it to fund vacations and upgrades you pretended to afford," I pointed at the youngest. "And you let your sisters pressure you into spending what you didn't even understand." They were trembling now. "Oh, Mom," the youngest whispered. "We didn't mean." "Intentions don't change results," I said. "Actions do." I stepped back. "And now, your actions have cost you your privilege." The eldest's jaw clenched. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said simply, "I'm done." Right on cue, Alex stepped inside. The room shifted visibly. The eldest stiffened. The middle shrank. The youngest looked terrified. He stood beside me. Not in front, beside. "This is your doing," my eldest screamed. "You poisoned her against us." "No," Alex said calmly. "I just gave her the information you hoped she'd never find." He pulled a stack of documents from his coat and placed them on the coffee table. Loan defaults, misappropriated funds, false statements, attempted guardianship filings. My daughters paled. "You were planning," Alex said quietly, "to declare her incompetent." "No," they shouted. "We were worried enough," Alex continued, "that you tried to sell her house before she died." My youngest broke down sobbing. My eldest looked like she wanted to faint. The middle whispered, "Please don't do this. Don't ruin us." Alex turned to me. "Your call," he said softly. "How do you want this to end?" The decision that changed everything. 3 daughters. 3 broken women in front of me. 3 sets of choices. They made choices I couldn't unmake for them. I took a breath and spoke. "I'm not pressing charges," I said. Their bodies sagged in relief too soon. "But," I continued, "I am reclaiming what is mine." "What?" my eldest croaked. "You will each repay your $100,000, I said in full. "Within 5 years?" 5 years? She screamed. "Yes," I said. "Or the legal documents Alex prepared will be filed." "You can't demand that," she shouted. "I can," I said. "And I am." The middle daughter collapsed into tears. The youngest nodded slowly, almost gratefully. She had always been the softest. "And more than that," I added, "you will not contact me again unless it is about repayment." My eldest shook her head violently. "You're choosing him over us." "No," I said quietly. "I'm choosing myself, and God help me it felt good." The end or the beginning? They left eventually broken, furious, shocked, but finally, accountable. When the door closed, I felt my knees weaken. Alex caught my elbow. "You stood taller today," he whispered, than you ever have in your life. I let out a shaky exhale. Will they hate me? Probably, he said honestly. Until they grow. If they ever grow. And if they don't, he shrugged gently. Then you didn't lose daughters, he said. You lost parasites. A breathy laugh escaped me. He squeezed my hand. Grandma, he said, I'm proud of you. No one had said those words to me in decades. Tears slipped down my cheeks, not from pain, not from fear, but from release. What happens now? I asked. He smiled. Now, he said, we build a life where you're loved, respected, and safe. He paused. And if your daughters ever earn their way back into your life, we'll let them in. But only if you choose it, I nodded. Yes, I whispered. That's how it should be. We walked out of the house together, locking the door behind us, not forever, but for now, leaving behind a past that had drained me dry. As we drove back to his apartment, the city lights glittered around us. And for the first time in 62 years, I didn't feel forgotten. I didn't feel used. I didn't feel alone. I felt free. And beside me sat the one person who had looked through all the lies, all the wounds, all the years, and chosen me anyway. My grandson. My ally. My salvation. My new beginning. Epilogue. Julia's new beginning. Some storms don't destroy us. They rinse us clean. My name is Julia, and I am 63 years old now. 1 year has passed since the day my daughter stood in my living room, ashen-faced, cornered, exposed, and realized that their mother was no longer the woman who whispered apologies into silence. Some people measure a year in seasons. I measure it in peace. I live with Alex still. Not because I must, but because I want to. His apartment is no longer a place I'm visiting. It's home. I've claimed a sunny corner by the window for my morning tea, a soft blue chair that he insists is ergonomic but still regal. He says it fits me. And maybe it does. My scar has faded into a thin pale line, the kind that doesn't hide but doesn't flaunt either, just quietly says I survived, whether anyone asks or not. Alex and I have built a rhythm. He works from his sleek office corner, tapping at keys, muttering about algorithms, and clients who don't listen. I cook now not because I should, but because I enjoy forcing him to eat vegetables. He pretends to hate it, but his health has improved, and I tell him that geniuses need vitamins too. Sometimes we go walking in the evenings. He rarely talks about his past, but slowly, like a man unlocking doors one at a time, he's begun to let me in. I don't push. He lets me in when he's ready. I learned that lesson far too late with my daughters. My daughters. People often ask whether children who betray you ever change. Here is my truth. Some do. Some can't. Some won't. My youngest, sweet, impulsive, lost, was the first to crack open. She sent the repayment schedule on time. She works long shifts now, trimming her spending, learning discipline she never thought she'd need. Every few months she sends a short message. Still paying, Mom? Hope you're well. No guilt. No demands. Just a little olive branch. My middle daughter took longer. She fought the hardest, cried the loudest, blamed the most. But accountability is a strange medicine. It tastes bitter at first, then cleanses. 6 months into repayment, she sent a letter. Not a text, a letter. She wrote, I was selfish. I see it now. But I don't know how to be different yet. Don't give up on me, I haven't. But the door is now mine to open. Not theirs to push through. My eldest, she remains distant. Angry, proud, a fortress with the drawbridge rotting from neglect. She pays on time, but her payments are cold wire transfers with no messages, no apologies, no warmth. And yet, a few weeks ago, when she thought I wouldn't see her, she stood outside Alex's building. Just stood. Looking up. Holding something in her hands. A bag of my favorite chocolates. She placed them by the door, rang the bell once, and walked away quickly, shoulders trembling. Alex found them and didn't say a word. He just brought them to me. Sometimes remorse comes quietly, terrified of being rejected at the door it once slammed shut. I don't know if she and I will fully heal. But healing isn't a finish line. It's a direction. And I am walking toward it slowly, but without fear. As for me, I've started writing again, short memoir pieces, little stories. Women my age send me messages saying my words make them braver. Some say they finally stood up for themselves. Some say they finally rested for the first time in years. I tell them the truth. You're never too old to start protecting your peace, and you're never too old to choose yourself. Alex says I should publish my writing. I laugh and tell him I'm too old for dreams. He looks at me the way he did in that hospital room the day he told the doctor, "She's coming home with me." And he says, "Grandma, you're too old for excuses, not dreams." And maybe he's right. Because now, when I drink my morning tea in that soft blue chair, sunlight warming the scar on my neck, I don't think of what I lost anymore. I think of what I reclaimed. My dignity, my strength, my voice, my joy. And somewhere along the way, I reclaimed my grandson too. Not the angry boy who disappeared, but the man who found himself and found me again along the way. Life didn't give me the ending I expected. It gave me the one I needed.